Z is just Zion, and Zion really is the way back. And it's funny with that, with the letter Z, because if you're trying to nut the system out, and you want to go back to man or go back into the creditor world, a magistrate, well, it's God, man, Vatican, creditor, and debtor. So the path to degrade, the path into hell is like this. That way there. And to get back to God up here, and man here, the Vatican there, and the creditor, which is sort of Christ, and the debtor. The way back to God is this way. You've got to go back the same path. And this is only my opinion. You've got to go back to the same path. And that's why you'll notice the Z. You see that? Zion, to find your way back to God. So it's it was the last symbol that I had trouble working out. I thought, what is this? And it's funny too, because when you do turn it up on its side, it becomes neutral, and mountain and valley. So, which is the two trusts. So it's it's got some meaning there. Now, S-I-G-N, and then S-I-N. Now, when you use this code, and you can use this with quite a lot of words. Let's do office for a start. Equity, that's an E. If that was written as so we'll use this code, and we'll see what this reads. The equity that is with Christ. Equity is your ownership to the mineral and energy wealth. It's your birthright. It's what equity. So the equity that is with, and I'm going backwards because hieroglyphs are usually read from the right to left, or bottom right up to the left. So when you construct the word in the hieroglyphic all uppercase text, and then for an interesting sake, just go through, use all of these meanings to see what happens with it going from the left, and would mean the equity that is with Christ is with the one that is with the fraud, that is with the fraud, that is with the office. So if the office, it's telling you that the office relates to a fraud. The equity of Christ is with the one that is with, there's two frauds here, and there's that. So what's happening is in the governing system that we're under at the moment, we can only be in the debtor or the creditor. So this office, these two here are a fraud. There is no debtor and creditor. There's only the office of creditor, the office of debtor, but we can only be one. So that's a fraud. So even the very word, see, this is where full disclosure starts to come in. Sign is very interesting too, because sign is the neutral, which is the debtor and the creditor, see? Oh, sorry, creditor and the debtor, which is the mountain and the sea, is with the governance of the one who is with the snake. Sign language. It's the trick that tricks us into falling into this system. We thought the sign writing or the sign language was proper English to deal with common law, but it's not. And when you take out the G, which is the debtor and the creditor is under the governance of the one who's with sign, take the G out, and it's just The debtor and creditor is with the one who's with sign. This is with the governance. So sign is the governance of sin. Sin is just simply sin. Even the word snake, the equity that is with the death, with the kill, the equity that has been killed, is with the administration of both debtor and creditor with the snake, with Satan. Satan, snake. A lot of these words in the Joker, Rome, that is with the equity, that is with the kill, is with the office of the Joker. It's a kill, Lucifer, that is with Lucifer. Well, that's really dead, isn't it? Is it the one that is with the kill? But this happens with goat. It's, even the word goat in the Black's Law Dictionary. Goat in the English dictionary is a goat. It's the real thing. Bah, bah. 4 legs and stuff. But in the Black's Law Dictionary, the goat is the sewer, which is strange, isn't it? The goat is the sewer, the underworld, the trust or treasury that is with the administration of the office of governance. It's the office of the underworld, or it's with governance. It's with an office, which is this office of governance, and the underworld or the sewer, which is also what goat means is sewer. We'll write that too. Rome, that is with the equity, is with the water, which is maritime law, is with the water. You see the sewer. Rome, that is with the equity, is with the water, that is with the equity under the snake. It's another reason why I've always, when I was studying or finding this out, I'd realised that the Kennedy kill could have only have been done from the sewer, from the stormwater drain. And I had worked this out long before. It was always the grassy knoll or the buildings or the whatever it was. But the kill shot came from the sewer. I mean, there's a very good documentary with an amazing amount of research on that now that they've actually confirmed the sewer shot. They've even got his name, but I think it's called 9/11 to JFK or JFK to 9/11, a rich man's trick. It's quite a long documentary, but I recommend you watch it because it actually starts to point out the results of this system and what it does and how it gets around killing people without even being charged. It's because when you're a debtor, you are the property of the administrator. You're the property of the police. And when they kill you, they're not liable for it because you agreed to hold that account that belonged to them. So you are their property. And when you become the property of the administrator or the property of the Vatican or the property of Satan, if you've agreed to be his property, then he can do what he likes with his property. Because when he kills his property and you're attached to it, you will die with it. And that's why it's very important. That's what Christ kept on saying, it's if you eat from the tree of the debtor, the usufruct, you will be caught up. You're dead. You're already dead. The military is the same. When you enter into the military, someone gets killed, you get killed in the military, you just died in action. There's no, probably pay your family a few measly $1,000, but because you've already agreed to enter into it. When you you hold a driver license or anything like that, the minute you become a Mr. or a Mrs. or a Miss, they are military accounts. You are in the military. So that, and they always try and call you Mr. something or Miss whatever, because while you are in the military, you are dead. You are deemed dead, and you are deemed the property of the state. The thing is that state that's running Australia and Queensland is not the state of Australia. It is a foreign banking state, as many of you are starting to work this out, and it's not our property. But if we become the account holders of that state, of that estate, the minute you become a legal title holder, it gives them the right to your equity, your ownership of this, because once you've been lost, then they'll take your equity and they'll administer it for you. But what they really want you is dead. They want you out of the picture. So it's a trust. This is a fraud trust that's been done by this Vatican down here. And when you look at it in this light, you've got to start asking yourself, is it dangerous? Was Christ's warnings were very real about this. Same in Adam and Eve's story, the garden. I mean, you eat from the tree of knowledge and you will surely die. You're dead. And the dead world that Christ has created after this, the Second Testament, is remedy within that dead world. But to get to that remedy, you would probably have to, you've got to sort of work out what they've done and what they're doing. Of course, when I did all this, people still reckon I'm crazy. And, in certain ways, I believe them. I'm so crazy that I couldn't stop. I had to find the bottom of this. In one way, I'm incredibly glad that I know what I know. But if I had have known what I was going to go through, I would never have had the guts to do what I did. What I had to face, the brutality of the system, the brutality of the Vatican police, the Unidroit goon squad that comes out and bashes you, the losing of the cars, the threats that you go through. It's terrorism to the max. And they even called me a terrorist. They advertised me as a terrorist on the news when I went to them and said, you've got a problem. The real terrorists and the real so-called sovereign citizens are the police, because the police are citizens administering sovereignty. It's them, and they're the ones that are murdering more people than anyone. They are administering this system of fraud. This is a fraud. They're operating the system by threat and terror and extortion. And especially in Queensland, in all states, but in Queensland, it is getting really bad. But those people that are involved in it, these politicians and all that, they are so hell-bent on the profit that they make. They can't let it go. But people like the Rothschild system, and the Rockefeller Foundations and all that, they base their wealth on their promissory notes. And that promissory note basically is a fraud. But the only thing that makes those promissory notes real is that your belief that it exists. And your belief that it exists comes from this information being suppressed to you. When you start to see this information, you realise you don't have to buy anything, because you are. You are the gold. The creditor owns the dominion. That's the birthright. And they must take that birthright from you in order to administer your stuff for their benefit and get rid of you. So, that's pretty wild. Anyway, that's a rundown of the alphabet in all uppercase and the meanings of those Egyptian hieroglyphs in a hieroglyphic sense.